Hello and welcome to the FatBoss guide to Shadow Lord Iskar on Mythic.
So this encounter on Mythic only really introduces two new mechanics, and they're pretty simple to deal with really. If you manage to kill Gorefiend, you'll easily be able to deal with this boss.
Now for this encounter you do want to bring 2 tanks, 4 or 5 healers and a mixed DPS composition. Just make sure you don't stack too many melee, otherwise you actually have to deal with the last phase.
So this fight is the exact same in the sense that the boss will start in phase 1 and you'll enter phase 2 at 75%, 45% and at 20%. Now for our strat on Mythic, we position the boss right in the middle. We have our tanks with their backs facing towards the entrance of the room and the melee with their backs faced towards the edge of the cliff. We have our range camps stacked on the left hand side of the room. Now during phase 1 you'll still have to deal with the Phantasmal Wounds debuff that's placed on random targets. Healers, just make sure you top them up as quick as you possibly can. When the Fel Chakrams come in, we have our range players move out to the side where the entrance is and head towards one corner, and melee move out towards the other on the exact same side. This prevents Fel Chakrams from ever hitting melee on their way back towards the boss.
Now the winds work the exact same, just make sure you are throwing around the eye to stop people from falling off, and when someone is targeted with the Fel Incineration, which is the fire from the sky, instead of kiting it away and causing fire to spawn all over the room, you can just stand out of the raid and stand inside of it and just have your healers top you up, because it doesn't really deal that much damage and it just makes the room so much cleaner, giving you so much more room to work with. So if it's on you, just go stand in it and healers, just make sure you keep them up.
Now the difference in this phase is the Eye of Anzu. The stacking debuff that deals ticking damage to you while you're holding the eye does not slowly deplete after you're no longer holding it. It will just last the entire fight. This means if you had a couple of guys carrying you in Heroic, doing all the dispels and all the interrupts in phase 2 as well as holding it in phase 1, you're pretty much going to have to relearn the fight for other people, as you simply cannot have the same people holding it in Mythic all the time, otherwise the stack is going to go too high and they'll just die. Now the best way of keeping stacks low is keeping the Eye of Anzu on DPS during phase 1 and just rotating it between all the DPS every 5 stacks or so. And in phase 2, this is when you can start putting it on your tanks and your healers.
One thing that has been added is that the boss on a timer will knock the eye out of someone's hand and it will just land somewhere in the room. Do note that this only happens in phase 1. In this situation, you just need people to react quickly and run over and pick it up again before it starts doing pulsing AoE damage on the raid. Just always keep an eye out of it. It does have an arcing travel time, so you can see roughly which direction it's going to go, so make sure you're there to pick it up as soon as it lands. Now at 75%, you'll have your first phase 2. Just like on Heroic, you'll have to deal with the bomb dispel and it works the exact same. Just throw it to a healer, dispel the debuff and you're good. You'll still have to deal with the outcast mobs and they'll still do nothing, just passively cleave them down. You will however have one new mob, and this guy comes in at every phase 2 for the entire fight. This new mob, called a Phantasmal Radiance, casts something called Chains of Despair. This ability places a debuff on 6 random players. Whilst you have this debuff, you take light ticking damage and that's about it. However, when the debuff expires, you'll take a massive shadow damage hit, instantly killing you. Now when this debuff is applied to you, you also are linked with another player with the debuff. When you run over to that player who you're linked with, both of your debuffs will be removed and you're good. If you run over a player who has the debuff and you're not linked with them, you'll both explode and kill yourselves, so don't do that. Now the only way you can see who you are linked with is if you are holding the Eye of Anzu. You'll see a chain between yourself and your partner. Now as you have 30 seconds to remove these debuffs, you do not need to panic and remove them immediately. You still need to use the Eye to remove the bombs, and in later phase 2s you need to use the Eye to interrupt. So in the downtime between dispelling bombs and interrupting the ads, throw the eye to someone who has the chains debuff. Once they've removed their chain, you may have time to do another set of chains, but you might want to wait until the next bomb or interrupt has been dealt with. Once you're dealt with the second set of chains, the last set can move together immediately, as there'll be the only 2 people left with the debuff, so they have to be chained together. Now one more important note about these chains is that when they do come in, they are immediately active. This means if you are stacked on top of other players and they also get the debuff, you'll instantly explode, or if you're lucky, it will instantly break, but it's highly unlikely. Do not risk it. Make sure you have moved out and spread out before the chains are applied and you'll be absolutely fine. Do also note that you don't actually have to hold the Eye of Anzu to break your chains. You can hold the Eye of Anzu, see, okay, I'm linked with Bob, then I can throw the eyes to the healers so they can dispel or whatever, and then I can run over to Bob. You don't have to hold the eye while you break your chain.
So to go over the timings of this phase, what we do is that we'll move in towards the middle, you'll have your healer dispel the first bomb, and then the first focus blast will hit your raid. As soon as this has happened, you want to spread out immediately afterwards, as this is the point where the chains come in. Once the chains come in, Throw the Eye of Anzu to one of them. Once that player has worked out who he is chained with, he should then throw it to a healer again for the next bomb dispel. Again, you probably could do another chain in this time, as Alex said, but it's a lot safer not to. Edge back in towards the middle of the room for the second and last focus blast, and dispel the second bomb at the exact same time. Throw the eye back again to someone with the chains. Once they've found their partner and they've broken it, the final chains can also break immediately afterwards. Keep your eye on your healer after this point, just in case any extra bombs need to be dispelled, and start to move back into your phase 1 positions, and that's it. So do exactly what you did in your first phase 1, make sure you keep the eye off your healer and tanks and let it just bounce around all the ranged DPS and the melee DPS, and at 45% you'll have your second phase 2. Move in the middle for the focus blast, have your eye on the tank from the start because you'll need to start doing the interrupts on the warden, throw it to your healer for the first bomb and then immediately throw it back to your tank afterwards. The blast will come in around 4 seconds later, and then as soon as the blast is hit, make sure you spread for your chains. Throw the eye to a random player with the chains. Once they found their partner, they want to throw it back to a healer again for bomb number 2. Once you've dispelled it, immediately throw it back to your tank because you'll need to interrupt the warden again, and at the same time, more or less, a blast will come in again, and that will be your last blast for this phase. Throw the eye to another player with chains, and once they've found their partner and they've broken, you'll just want the last set of chains to do the exact same. And then you'll go back into phase 1, and it all repeats. It's very likely though at this point, especially on a first kill, you'll probably still have a Talon Priest up, so the healer will still need to dispel for bombs, and there is a chance, at least this is what happened with us, there was a warden up at the exact same time, so you'll need to make sure that your healer and the tank are still communicating so that they're doing the dispels and the interrupts. However, almost at the exact same time when you go back into phase 1, you will actually have wins. You kind of want to just ignore them and only throw it to remove the wins debuffs when the dispel or when the interrupt has literally just been done, or if the ads are completely dead then you can throw it around for wins. But play it safe, don't risk it. The wins people can run all day, you can give them speed increases, you can give them grips. Just make it so the bombs don't go off and the warden is interrupted and you'll be fine.
Now once you've made it through phase 1 again, the boss will enter the last phase 2 and that'll be around 20%. Now in this last phase 2 you're like, oh god, we've got to deal with so much stuff guys, it's going to be impossible. Nope, you just bloodlust and nuke the boss while he's up in the air.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about any of the ads. Of course, melee DPS, you can't hit the bird while he's flying, or you can't, they can just DPS the ads, who gives a fuck. Get all of your ranged DPS just to run up to the boss, pop bloodlust, pop your rings, put whatever you got, and just nuke the shit out of him while he is in the air. Now by the time the phase ends, the boss will either be dead or very close to it. You still, however, need to deal with the Fell Raven and all the other ads. We have one of our tanks pick up the Fell Raven and tank him outside of the raid. This tank never gets the Eye of Anzu, and as a result will never remove the debuff from the Fell Raven. This tank will take a bucket load of damage, just make sure you save all of your personal cooldowns and some external cooldowns for this tank. You want to start the phase with the eye on the warden tank for interrupts. You just want to throw it to a healer for bomb 1 and then throw it back to the tank. Focus blast will come in and afterwards you want to spread for chains. When the chains come in, you can either ignore them or deal with them. We recommend on a first kill just to ignore them and let them die, especially if they're on melee DPS. From this point onwards, you just want to keep throwing it between the interrupt tank and the healer for bombs and just nuke the boss. As long as the focus blast is soaked by the majority of the raid and no bombs explode and no interrupts are missed, this last phase is like one of the easiest points in the fight where you just nuke the boss.
And that's more or less the fight.
Yeah.
You won't even get a phase 1 again after that point, and if you do, it'll be about 10 seconds long or something like that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of sketchy kills where some people have died immediately with chains in phase 3, and it's a bit scary, but you can still kill him. And one other thing, if you have like got ridiculously good gear and you're kind of behind in progress to an extent, you can actually kill the mob that gives you chains before he applies the chains, because you should be focusing him down anyway. If you have got ridiculous DPS and you can save cooldowns and maybe you can line up rings for it, you can kill him before he even does any mechanics, and that makes the fight pretty much heroic.
Yeah.
But you have to throw the eye around a bit more. So if you have the DPS, you could always try it out. It does make it easier, but you don't need to do that.
Yeah, and it's probably very unlikely that you'd be able to do that on a first kill anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. If this guide helped out, then please do drop us down a like. It helps us out a lot. And we shall see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.